Alright guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So in this one, we're going to be taking a look at Mel Kiper's mock draft. It was just released. The top 10 picks, okay, and as we all know, the New York Jets, of course, have those two top 10 picks. So really exciting stuff. Let's not waste any time. Let's jump right in. So with the first overall pick, he has the Jacksonville Jaguars going with defensive end from Michigan, Aidan Hutchinson. Definitely a pick that everybody saw coming. Now, I will say this, it's always tough to put together mock drafts when you don't even know who's going to be coaching the team. We don't even know what schemes are going to be in place. But luckily for the Jacksonville Jaguars, both Aidan Hutchinson and Thibodeaux can play in multiple systems here, so that's a huge plus. And then, of course, Neal is still on the board as well. So Jacksonville definitely will have their options, but as far as Hutchinson to the Jaguars is concerned, I mean, I love it. Thinking about, and by the way, Matt Eberflus is turning into the favorite for the Jacksonville Jaguars job. He runs an aggressive 4-3 system. If he lands that job, I mean, man, thinking about Hutchinson off the edge along with Josh Allen opposite him is insane. You can make an argument that's one of the top young pass rushing duos in the NFL. Now, of course, we haven't seen Hutchinson play in the league, but regardless, as a draft prospect, I think it'd be a slam dunk for Jacksonville. Next up at spot number 2, Mel has the Lions going with defensive end from Oregon, the other pass rusher here, Kayvon Thibodeaux. I would love this. I would frankly love this for Detroit. I mean, I really feel like the Lions, I mean, you look at number 1 where they lack, it's pass rush. I really feel like this defense lacks cornerstones. I know Jeff Okudah was a top 3 pick a couple years back. I really like Okwara. Tracy Walker set to the open market. There's some guys that nice young cornerback room as well, but I think Kayvon would just add that extra layer of aggressiveness, that extra layer of pass rush to this Lions defense. He's a Campbell guy. I could see, I just envision, you know, assuming Aaron Glenn doesn't get a head coaching job here, getting his hands on Thibodeaux and just unleashing him, just having a field day, lining him. I mean, he could potentially line up at linebacker if you need him to. He's the best player on the board. You're looking at the NFC North. It's Aaron Rodgers. It's a young mobile quarterback in Justin Fields. It's Kirk Cousins. You have to be able to get in the backfield. Kayvon Thibodeaux can do that. Next up at spot number 3, he has the Houston Texans going with Neal, tackle from Alabama. Now, I know this one was super obvious, but I got to be honest, I love it. I mean, right now, we don't know who the Texans' next head coach is going to be. We don't know what schemes are going to be in place. We don't know what's happening with Deshaun Watson. Is Davis Mills going to be here as the starting quarterback next season? Will they try to bring in somebody else? There's a lot of unknowns surrounding this Texans organization right now, but what we do know is that this team needs help on the offensive line, and Neal would come in and instantly be a day 1 impact starter and upgrade over who they currently have. I love Neal. He's a solid, he can really be that franchise anchor on the Texans offensive line. You have Tunsil on the other side, plug Neal in at right tackle. I think you're good to go. Next up at spot number 4, he has the Jets going with safety from Notre Dame, Kyle Hamilton. You guys know how much I love Kyle. I mean, size, speed, instincts, versatility. He's a true ball hawking free safety, but he's not just pigeonholed as some flocking free safety, and that's really the only thing he can do. No, he can come up and support in the running game. He really does a good job of laying the boom, setting the tone, being that leader in the back end of the defense, a true playmaker. You can line him up at nickel corner if you want him to. I mean, man, this guy can just, he could truly be a chess piece for Robert Saleh in the back end of the defense, a guy that could really just control everything back there. And with Marcus May set to free agency, and the rumor right now is that he will not be back next season, I don't feel comfortable at the safety position. I know Jason Pinnock played some pretty solid football towards the in the last couple of games. That's awesome, but Ashton Davis, 3rd round pick in 2020, I don't feel comfortable with him as a starting safety. Let's not hold any punches here. The Jets have the worst defense in football. They're allowing roughly 30 points per game defensively. That number needs to go down. Okay, it just has to. We need more talent. We need cornerstones on defense. And I think really the only argument here is positional value, drafting a safety at spot number 4. I get it. That is completely valid. But I got to be honest, if Kyle Hamilton is the pick for me at spot number 4, I wouldn't be angry. I wouldn't be upset. I wouldn't be ticked off. Now, you could make the argument, hey, let's go get a safety in round 2. We have 2 second-round picks. Daxton Hill's probably going to be there. Maybe a Jaquan Brisker if he falls out of the first round. We'll see what happens, but man, at safety, there are some pretty good players, but there's none better in this class than Kyle Hamilton. Next up at spot number 5, Mel has the Giants going with tackle from NC State, Ikem Ekwonu. I love this pick. I really, really do. I think when you look at what the Giants need, they need talent, they need production on the offensive line, specifically a tackle. Okay, I look at Ekwonu as an aggressive player. He could come in and immediately help out and dominate in the running game. We don't know what schemes they're going to be running, but at the end of the day, we do know that Ikem can play. Ikem would come in and be an instant upgrade on that offensive line, helping both in pass protection and in the running game. Saquon's a guy that really needs to start getting going soon, and I think that I think with drafting Ekwonu here, it really, really could help in that department. Next up at spot number 6, Mel has the Panthers going with tackle from Mississippi State, Charles Cross. And I'm actually really high on Cross. I mean, he's a great pass protector, did some really awesome things in the SEC. I mean, man, those edge rushers in the SEC, the defensive lines in the SEC are insane. The Texas A&Ms of the world. I mean, there's so much, I mean, specifically in the SEC West. I mean, there's so much talent there. Anyway, I'm looking at Carolina, and of course, I think the biggest need on this team is quarterback. First, this team has to fill the OC spot. But what are they going to do at quarterback? Are they really going to roll out Sam Darnold for next year? Bring Cam Newton back, PJ Walker. I just don't feel like they have the guy currently. But here's the good news for the Panthers fans. Deshaun Watson could be on the move. Kirk Cousins could be on the move. Russell Wilson. Who else? Jimmy Garoppolo. There are going to be options, I think, leading up to the draft as far as the quarterback position is concerned. Now, of course, you can make that argument for a guy in, Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett, but tackle is a need nonetheless. Next up at spot number 70 is the Giants going David Ojabo, outside linebacker from Michigan. Man, when you look at this guy from a talent, from a potential perspective, it's through the roof. I mean, this guy can be an absolute animal one day. As a pass rusher, right, as more of a stand-up guy, but, I mean, he moves well in space. I think Ojabo is... If the right coaches get their hands on Ojabo, he could turn into an absolute game wrecker. And I look at what the Giants need. They need pass rush, right? They need, of course, offensive line. And there is a small question mark with quarterback. And again, we still don't know who their coaching staff is going to be, what schemes that are going to be ran. But I think David Ojabo, even though he's extremely talented, a lot of potential, I think he's just a little raw. But who knows? Who knows? I think he's going to test well at the combine and all that good stuff. I mean, physically, it's all there. So it should be crazy. I think if the Giants were to select an Ojabo, some people might consider it a reach, and that's understandable. But I think it's more of a long-term play. And I think Giants fans would be satisfied if they have the same guys, same coaches in place as far as development for David goes. Next up at spot number 8, Mel has the Falcons going with corner from LSU, Derek Stingley. Just thinking about Stingley and AJ Terrell on the same field is insane. It's kind of like the cornerback equivalent to the Jacksonville Jaguars at spot number 1, according to this mock draft, with Josh Allen and Aidan Hutchinson. Just two young studs for years to come. I mean, AJ really, he had a phenomenal season. I think it needs to be talked about more. Looking at Derek Stingley here, Man, the Falcons, I was actually impressed with Arthur Smith. I didn't think the Falcons would be this good, but they proved me wrong big time. I think Derek also fits the system well, but it just gets me excited. I'm not even a Falcons fan, but it gets me excited to think about Stingley and Terrell on the same field. So much potential in both of those guys. They're both cornerback ones. Okay, it's insane. And plus, who's the DC? It's Dean Pease, a guy who's been around the NFL for a long time, has has a great resume in developing cornerbacks, working with DBs. So I love this pick. I absolutely love it. Next up at spot 90 is the Broncos going with linebacker from Georgia, Nakobe Dean. This to me just kind of feels like we're going to just draft a really good player and put him on the team. Again, we don't know what schemes are going to be in place for Denver right now. I look at the Broncos and I feel like every year they're kind of in like the 9 to 11 range. But I really feel like this Broncos team has a lot of things figured out. Like, they have offensive playmakers, they have weapons, they have some pieces on the O-line, they have some pieces on the D-line, obviously corner as well, safety, Justin Simmons. Like, this Broncos team is not that far off. They are really not. So I think Dean would come in, obviously providing leadership, really bringing that winning mentality over from college, and a guy that I feel like could step on the field day one and have an impact. Next up at spot number 10, he is the Jets going with wide receiver from USC, Drake London. And London is a guy that reminds me so much of Mike Evans. He's 6'5", former basketball player, red zone threat, boxes out corners, no problem at all. Really good hands. As a route runner, I think he's good. I honestly think he's good. I don't think he's an elite route runner. I think there's better route runners in this draft class. And knowing that that's what Mike LaFleur bases this whole offense around at the wide receiver position, I don't necessarily know if this would be the pick here. I think he would come in and almost be that security blanket for Zach Wilson on the outside. Now, of course, we do have Corey Davis and we have Elijah Moore, and Braxton Berrios is presumed to be back next season. So it should be interesting to see how this team attacks the wide receiver position. I will say this: there's going to be a ton of available free agents. Okay, we of course we all know Allen Robinson, Devontae Adams, Godwin. There's a lot of really talented players, but even guys like, Christian Kirk, Michael Gallup, the second tier level of the wide receivers in this class that I feel like would come in and make an impact as well. So it should be interesting to see how this whole thing plays out, how Mike LaFleur views the wide receiver position. Do we want to get taller? Do we want to get, more big bodies on the outside? I think we need more height at the wide receiver position. And look, at the end of the day, it's never a bad thing to have too many offensive weapons. Look at the Steelers, look at the Chiefs, look at the Bengals. So many weapons galore. It's crazy. I'll leave it there. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section about Mel Kiper's mock draft. Cannot wait to dive in and check out your thoughts. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, and as always, go Jets.